So the Mount Suribachi statue, which all of you are familiar with, represents the struggle we had to overcome to win World War II. Fun fact, the sculptor who casted the large Mount Suribachi statue in Arlington, Virginia, is the same sculptor who casted the Wall Street Bull in New York. His name is Bill Mackey, and I did an episode on him earlier about his story and how he casted the bull, so be sure to check it out when you get a chance. Anyway, similar to how Mount Suribachi represents the struggle we overcame in World War II, there is a statue called the Unconditional Surrender statue, which represents the reward we gained from World War II. This statue is based on a photograph of a sailor kissing a nurse, which happened in Times Square in 1945. So in this Scout episode, we're going to go and check out this 25 feet tall statue. Let's go. The Unconditional Surrender statue is based on a VJ Day kiss that happened in Times Square in 1945. Now, a lot of people don't know the backstory of this, but the sailor seen kissing the nurse is George Mendonça. And I don't know if I pronounced that right, so if anyone in the audience could correct me, go ahead. But George came from the Pacific Theater and he was on leave, and he took his date Rita out to Times Square to go see a movie, I believe. But in the middle of the movie, people sort of rushed in and said the war's over, the Japanese had surrendered. And when him and Rita, his date, heard that good news, they sort of left the theater and went to the bar and started grabbing drinks. Now, I did mention that 3 months earlier, George was in the Pacific Theater and he had saw 2 Japanese kamikaze planes smashed into USS Bunker Hill. And I believe 350 Navy personnel had died during that incident. And George helped pull a lot of bodies, burnt bodies, from the water. And when he was helping rescue those sailors, he saw how a nurse was working hard on these Navy personnel and helping those who could survive. So when he was in Times Square after drinking with his date, he saw a nurse walking by. And he sort of just grabbed her and kissed her. The nurse was a complete stranger. He didn't know her from anything. And her name, I believe, was, let me see if I could find it, Greta Zimmer. That's the name of the nurse. She was an Austrian immigrant who fled Europe for the Nazis and came to Times Square. She was not a nurse. She worked as a dental assistant. And when the war was over, she went outside to Times Square and was grabbed by this stranger and was kissed. Now, after this kiss, everyone sort of went about their way, but George did not know that a photo was captured until years later, probably decades, where he realized, like, holy smokes, that's me. And this Life magazine publication is what inspired the Unconditional Surrender statues that are all over the country. Now, the one we're seeing now is in San Diego, but the original one was in Sarasota, Florida, and it was also in New York City, Times Square for some time. There's also one in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. There's one in Québec, France, and there's also one in Rome, Italy, and I believe in Michigan as well. So these Unconditional Surrender statues are all over the country. Now, the one in San Diego is right by the USS Midway. Quite a pair, if you ask me, and the statue is 25 feet tall. Now, similar to just like I have a Berlin Wall series where I find all the Berlin Walls throughout the United States, I'm going to start an Unconditional Surrender series where I find all the Unconditional Surrender statues throughout the world. And if you want to find out where they're at, just download the Cityscape app and it will show you where the Unconditional Surrender statue is. And once you find it, you could claim it for some street cred. Now, before I go, there is a brief incident I want to mention. If you remember at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that the kiss was sort of unsolicited. George just grabbed Greta and kissed her because, it was victory over Japan. Now, because of this, a French feminist, and actually feminists throughout the world, has been saying that this statue represents sort of like a form of sexual harassment. And the one in Sarasota, Florida, has been vandalized with Me Too. Now, as a scout, I'm not going to get into politics, so I will leave you guys to decide whether this was just or not. I just want to share this street information with you because this channel is about street news after all. That's it for this episode. Be sure to download the Cityscape app if you want more secret spots in your city. One thing I want to mention is that I'm looking for scouts throughout the country, most particularly in cities, because what's happening right now is that there's secret spots in New York, San Francisco, Hawaii, San Diego, but the rest of America is sort of empty. So I need people that could download the app and start seeding their city with secret spots on the Cityscape app. So if that's you, be sure to download Cityscape. And of course, if you could even contact me so we could start coordinating our effort, it'd be even better. So I'm going to leave my email in the description if you want to contact me as a scout and work with us as a Cityscape scout. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you next time, guys. Keep scouting. Scout life.